section on that. So that was actually an item raised by Councillor Graham on local testing, and we do have some capacity in the region. How often do we ask our locals whether they are going to compete or are able to provide a similar service for a similar price, if you like?
I'm not totally sure, because there's actually two answers to that question. One was the sorry, not your question, the original question. One was the normal scientific sampling, which my team doesn't do. Mine does the pollution sampling, and also we also do sampling of resource consents, dairy farms and stuff like that. And so I don't know how science go about their process of finding out who does their testing. But with us, we purposely went to the Hawke's Bay operator, because they were actually reasonably new, and for that purpose, that number one, that they were local, they did have capacity, and also, to tell the truth, it's actually easier for us. We deliver our samples straight to them in Hastings, basically any time of the day, and if anything that they cannot sample, they send it away on our behalf to the likes of Hills Industries and stuff, so that does suit us. In terms of us looking at who provides these kind of services for us, to tell the truth, as long as it's working fine, we remain with it. We don't go out to the market very often to check who's giving us the best price, etc.
So just to follow up on that, so considering that there was a local request to say, we'd like to have a look, is it possible to have a chat with them?
Oh, most certainly. In fact, this is what happened. This company actually set up here, I think, probably about 2 years ago, and they did approach us, and we liked what they showed us, and they were competitive, and so we went with them.
Questions on that or any of the items?
Well, I think that the issue that I raised was that wherever we can, we should be doing business with local people, because it tends to be, when you live in a society like ours, a small community, what goes round comes around, and in particular I'm talking to that company there, just as this is just an example, is a 100% subsidiary of another company that I'm talking about getting sponsorship for Waitangi Park.
Yeah, well, I think it's 400 odd businesses that rely on councils for a chunk of their income. So yeah, that's right.
I agree.
No, it's a valid and worthwhile principle, I accept. Anything further, Mr. Wright? Very good. Further questions? Someone happy to move that we accept that report? Thank you, Councillor Bevan. We have a seconder for that, and thank you, Councillor Belford. Discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried.
I'm just saying the Lagaima, if that's how you pronounce it, requests tend to get overlooked in this particular item. I had a query on the 5th request from Megan Rose. There's no identification of what topic she's requested information on.
Well, that's around the, as Councillor Belford also referred to earlier, that independent panel.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's go to minor items, not on the agenda. Do we have any? Wasps.
Oh, yeah, that's for both of us.
I've got wasps. No.
All left out.
Graham Hewitt, okay.
WSS business case.
Yep.
Chairman, could I notify a minor item in public excluded, please? Regional business partnership contract.
Touche. I think it might be a timing issue.
Yes,
I
it
could
is. It's
answer
just
that.
come up
It's
today.
a timing
saying
issue.
that Alan, as you said before, it's the chief executive has complete control of the agenda, and here she is asking for a minor item to be put on. I thought, wow, this is a bit of a revelation.
Okay. Right, no further minor items. Let's get into business now. Just so we're aware, I'm not sure we're going to see Deloitte's before 10:30, so I suggest we go through the agenda and they will arrive when they arrive. They're travelling. Okay, affixing the common seal on page 11. Questions? Can I just... seems to be a lot of activity at the moment, Mr. Drury. Is this set to continue? Is it based, do you think, on interest rates? We've probably covered this before. But
Yeah, we probably have, Mr. Chairman. I mean, the interest rates are going down, not up. So if anything, it's going to be exacerbated. People can borrow 1 and 2 year money for low 4s, whereas the contracts, 21-year renewal contracts, are based on a 5%.
Just we'll stick with the one meeting, please, Councillor Pike. Yeah, I see that. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I'll repeat that. Yes, it is picking up, and it'll continue, I think, because interest rates, short-term money, are in the low 4s, and the contracts the leasehold agreements are based on 5% of value. So you can see there is a short-term discrepancy there. Possibly not a long-term one over a 21-year time frame, but there is a short-term advantage.
Okay. Questions? I have another question, actually, on the staff warrants on the next page, and I note a number of the staff members there are not council staff per se. I understand the civil defence contract, if you like, or for want of a better description, but how does that sit with others holding staff warrants when they're not actually full-time staff members?
They are part of the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, which is administered by the Regional Council. So even though that not all of them, but a number of them are based in the territorial authorities, they have delegations provided by the group and therefore through the Regional Council.
So you're comfortable that
Yes.
they're not? Okay. That's my question. Any other questions? Someone happy to move that we accept that? Thank you, Councillor Scott. Seconded, Councillor Pipe. Discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Annual bus fares review.
I'll ask Mr. Adams to come forward.
Great.
Now, for those of you who haven't met John, and probably that's most of you, John is with us for a couple of years, replacing Megan Wellsby, who's on extended leave, and apologies from Anne Redgrave also for not being able to be here for this particular item, but I'll get John to go through the paper and answer any questions.
So it was John Adams.
Yes.
That's a memorable name.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, John Adams is the name, and I'm with the Regional Council for 2 years while Megan's overseas. I can assume that you've read the report. There are a couple of options it would seem open to us in terms of bus fare review at this stage. There's a couple of anomalies, and we have the opportunity to address those, or the other option is to leave all the fares unchanged. The anomalies essentially are about the Napier to Hastings journey, which if you do that on the number 12 is a 2-zone trip. You've got the figures in front of you. If you do it on the Express, which is actually a better service, you pay less money for it. That's an anomaly. There's also an anomaly with people who get on that Express service in Clive, in that they pay the full 2-zone fare. Contrary to that, there is the suggestion, to correct those anomalies, one would need to change some fares, and that would involve putting the fares up for some people. The opposite point of view says, why don't we leave all the fares as they are? Patronage is somewhat down, petrol prices are on the low side. Increasing fares would tend to drive people away rather than attract people to our service. Our fare box is relatively good. we would be, I would be reluctant to drive prices up and therefore drive people away. That's the guts of the report. And your questions?
So to wrap that up, the recommendation from staff is that the bus fares remain unchanged for 2016-17, including the express service.
Can you just remind us, in terms of the express services, there's a new one coming on, isn't there? Or is it running already?
There is. As you'll be familiar, there's the existing express service Napier to Hastings that goes via Clive.
Yes.
And starting on the 1st of August is an additional express service Napier to Hastings via the expressway.
Right.
That hasn't started yet, but the expectation is that that will run at the same fare as the current express service.
Yeah. And is the patronage on the express services essentially adult commuters?
Around about 80-20. Approximately 20% of our users on that express service are school students.
Okay. So, I mean, we're trying to encourage these services. And 80%, you say 80% of the patronage is adult commuters who face an increased cost.
On that proposal,
if
yes.
That's to be modified.
If we go with that model, yes, those 80% would face an increased cost.
Right. So given that we're in the business of trying to expand that service and starting a new service, an additional service, I don't think that's time to put a price up.
And that's the recommendation that we've got, that we leave the prices as they are. Yeah. Agreed. Sorry.
Councillor Scott.
I can see the rationale, Mr Chairman, for leaving it as is, but considering it's disadvantaging the people who are more unlikely to have an alternative, I am concerned that we're leaving them with a full fare, and that is the students and community service card holders. When's the next review, and when can we get rid of that? And it's not just the anomaly. To me, it's actually an equity issue, that we're leaving some people in order just to hold that fare in one way for the people who are the full fare payers. Those that are less able to have alternatives are being disadvantaged, and I just wonder where the natural justice is in that particular.
Thank you. You've raised exactly the question that we at staff have raised, that this is an equity issue versus a conformity issue. Generally, fare reviews are done once a year. Given that there are new services to come into play on the 1st of August, the sense is to trial these new services and then review the fares again in 12 months' time when those new services have had the opportunity to settle in. But we fully accept that there is an equity issue here.
An option could be a compromise to leave the adult fares as they stand for 12 months, but adjust the concessionary fares for community services and school kids.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can do that on the fly here today. Can we?
I can't do that on the fly, no, Mr Chairman, but I can investigate that.
Sure. Councillor Pipe.
Yeah, just to taking into consideration what's been said around the table here, without repeating that, it does seem to me as though the issue is going to have to be faced in a year's time, because that's what you're suggesting in the recommendations here, that reviewing the fares in 1 year's time. So you're going to be faced with the same issues of putting up fares then. Have you given any thought to the process that you're going to use? All you're doing is postponing.
Yes, you're right. I think all we're doing is postponing on the basis that presumably petrol prices will have gone up slightly by then, therefore we won't be in that cleft stick, so to speak, and our new services should have bedded in by then. I accept the point fully. Yeah.
Just regarding number 8 there, have you got any idea how many councillors, excluding Councillor Graham, are super gold card holders?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
It's an unfair question, Mr. Murray. Yeah, exactly. All of the above. Okay, let's get to the recommendations. I did have a question around the student zone. I mean, we have had requests through processes that they are free. EIT, would really appreciate that. We haven't been able to work it. I said we're not going to do that again here today. But yeah, I think Councillor Dick's idea would be good to. I'm not proposing we change fares today without crunching the numbers on it, but I think we need to take all this stuff into consideration, perhaps give it a bit more focus going forward. So, is someone happy to move?
Just before we do, is the suggestion that staff come back to us with a suggestion around adjusting that student fare?
What, leave this on the table?
In which case we would leave this on the table.
Well-
We could actually give a indication in principle, but if we're going to adjust them, we're going to adjust them, and therefore this approving this today would actually stop us adjusting that student fare.
Well, it would do, but
Could I just check with Mr Adams about how much lead-in time you need in terms of promotional material and advertising to have the bus fare concluded?
The new services will come into action on the 1st of August. I'm under instructions to get final proofs from the printers on the 30th of June. I wouldn't rule it out, certainly.
how long would you need to run the model, if there is such a thing, to see what effect it would have on income, etc.? And potentially,
Would you like to leave that with me and we can communicate by email from there? Is that appropriate?
Could I ask if it's possible to actually put a further recommendation here that's subject to meeting the cash flows, that the tertiary student community card services be adjusted downward?
Look, I'm thinking that we could have something back to the Corporate and Strategic Committee meeting on the 15th of June for guidance to transport staff, and one would hope ratification at the end of June meeting, so that that meets the deadline requirement for the printers.
So leave it lying on the table till then, and then deal with it at that committee meeting as a decision of council.
Well, I think we could get some guidance around all the other fares. Yeah.
Oh, we're meeting on the 15th.
Yeah.
So are you proposing to move that we leave it on the table, Councillor Dick?
Yes, I will.
You happy to second that?
With Christine's amendments?
I'll put that motion, and all those in favour, please say
It's left
aye.
on the table, it's left on the
Contrary,
table.
no. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope we've given you enough guidance there, Mr Adams, to